Imagine a mother who already had 5 children to raise on her own, barely had enough to eat, yet still opened her heart to take in children no one else wanted. A simple woman, with no money, no support, who turned her humble house into a true home filled with love. What she didn't know was that her silent act of courage would be seen by someone very special and change her life forever. Donna Elsa was born in the countryside of Minas Gerais, in a small town surrounded by mountains, where time seemed to move slower and everyone knew each other's name. From an early age, she showed signs of a strength no one could quite explain. She was the kind of girl who preferred helping her father in the garden to playing with dolls. Not because she lacked affection, quite the opposite. Elsa had a heart that overflowed. She helped her mother take care of her younger siblings, did what she could for the neighbors, and even as a child, she was the one offering comfort to those who needed it most. Her childhood, however, was far from easy. Her father was a farm laborer, and her mother washed clothes for others. There was never a guarantee of food on the table, and sometimes shoes had to last 2 or 3 years. Even so, Elsa grew up with a sense of solidarity that couldn't be contained. She always said she wanted to have many children someday. She couldn't quite explain where this deep desire to care for people came from. It had just always been there. At 19, Elsa married Antonio, a simple, hard-working man from the region who carried many emotional scars. Their first child came the following year. Then came 4 more, one after the other. Their small home became a whirlwind of laughter, tears, cooking pots on the stove, clothes hanging to dry, and sleepless nights. But to Elsa, it was paradise, even if paradise was sometimes dusty, noisy, and filled with overdue bills. But life, as it so often does with brave mothers, decided to test Elsa. When the youngest was just 3, Antonio began to drink. First on weekends, then all week. The money started disappearing. The yelling got worse. And one day, he simply didn't come back. He vanished, leaving Elsa alone with 5 small children, a crumbling house, and no income. The neighbors thought she'd fall apart. 5 kids, alone? She's going to end up in a hospital. Poor thing. But they didn't know Elsa like they should have. She cried. Of course, she cried. But soon she wiped her tears, tied her hair up, tucked in her skirt, and went out to fight. She started cleaning houses. Then she began selling cakes at the market. She'd wake up at 4 in the morning to prepare everything, and still get the kids ready with the little she had. At night, she cared for them with such complete, deep love that even in poverty, her children never felt anything less than rich. And in that chaos and resilience, something unexpected happened. One day, while selling her cakes at the market, Elsa saw a little girl sitting on the curb, alone, dirty, with lost eyes. No one knew where she came from. The police were called, but no one showed up to claim her. It was as if the world had forgotten the child. And Elsa, well, Elsa couldn't walk away. There was something about that girl, eyes too sad for such a small body. Without thinking much, she asked the officer what would happen to her. "She'll go to a shelter," he replied, like someone saying, "It might rain later." Elsa looked at the girl again. She thought of her 5 children waiting at home, the empty fridge, the overdue electric bill. But she also thought of the pain of being left alone in a corner of the world. So she took a deep breath and said, "Sir, let her come with me, just for today." And that's how something began. Something even Elsa herself hadn't imagined. The welcoming of children the world had thrown away. The girl's name was Bea. She was 6 years old and had a history of abandonment that Elsa only discovered gradually as she earned her trust. At first, Bea was afraid of Elsa's children, curled up in corners, barely ate, but it took just a week before she was playing in the yard, smiling, calling Elsa Aunt, and then Mom. until Aunt disappeared for good. Days turned into months, and Bea became part of the family. Elsa made her guardianship official. Despite the red tape, she told her kids, "We don't have much, but we have love, and that's what matters." And they understood. Children raised with love learn early the value of sharing, of caring, of including. And so, without even intending to, Elsa built not just a family, but a life philosophy. And it was simple. No one deserves to be alone in this world. Word got around. People in the town began knocking on her door with similar stories. Babies left in hospitals, siblings separated by court decisions, children no one wanted to adopt because they were too difficult. Elsa didn't run an NGO, had no government support, could barely pay her own bills, but she always found a way. Her house became a true home, a place where no one had to ask permission to be loved. Once, she took in a 14-year-old boy named Felipe, who had already been through 4 different shelters. He said he didn't trust anyone, that everyone just wanted to get rid of him. Elsa, as always, didn't push. She simply offered him a hot meal, a clean mattress, and silence, so he could speak when he was ready. It took 2 months. But one day, as she was chopping onions in the kitchen, he leaned against the doorway and said, "If you want me here, I'll stay." That was the first time Elsa cried in front of one of her children, because in that moment, she understood that despite all the hardship, she was doing something bigger than herself. Of course, there were difficult times. She faced unfair social inspections, malicious gossip, threats from neighbors annoyed by the comings and goings of so many children. Sometimes there was no food. Sometimes the lights were out. But there was never a lack of faith or courage. One of Elsa's biological daughters, the oldest, once said, "Mom, you should think more about us." And Elsa answered, with firmness and tenderness, "It's precisely because I think of you that I take these children in. I want you to grow up knowing what real love is. I want you to know that it's possible to be strong, even when everything seems lost." And so, that humble house on the outskirts became a sanctuary, a place where children found not only shelter, but soul, and where a brave mother did the impossible, every day, with what the world called nothing. She had no degree, no sponsors, no recognition, but she had something rare, a heart so big, it seemed to carry the entire world inside. What Elsa didn't know yet was that the world was about to give that love back in an unexpected way. Very soon, someone from the other side of life, someone with resources, a story, and a past touched by abandonment, would cross her path, someone who would change everything. Over the years, Donna Elsa's house no longer looked like just a simple home in the outskirts of Minas Gerais. It had become a beacon of light in the darkness. Children came and went. Some stayed for months, others for years, but all of them left with the imprint of that strong embrace, that gaze that said, "You matter. You are loved." But the bigger her mission grew, the tougher the challenges became. The first major battle came on a rainy morning when 2 child welfare officers knocked on her door. Elsa, still wearing an apron dusted with flour, opened it and was met with suspicious looks. "Do you have legal authorization to keep all these children?" one of the men asked, clipboard in hand. Elsa swallowed hard. She had legal guardianship of only 2, but 8 children were playing in the yard, counting her biological kids. It was no secret that sometimes she sheltered undocumented children, kids from stories no one wanted to talk about. "I have authorization from the heart," she replied, not defiant, but unwavering. These children were on the streets, with no one. Here they have food, a bed, school. Here they have a mother. The men looked at each other. One sighed. The other scribbled something down and said they'd return. That night, Elsa couldn't sleep. The fear of losing the children was greater than hunger, greater than poverty. And sure enough, they returned. This time with social workers. They asked questions, examined every corner of the house. They saw cracks in the walls, mattresses shared between 2 or 3, piles of clothes. One of the men even said, "Dona Elsa, you're a warrior, but you're overwhelmed. This is not a dignified life for so many children." Elsa took a deep breath, looked around, and said, "You're right. It's not ideal. But have you seen the life they had before they got here? Have you seen a boy sleep in a cardboard box at a bus stop? Have you seen a girl beaten on the street because no one wanted to admit she existed? There's no luxury here. Well, but there's love. And love is dignity too." Her words echoed. And even though they weren't legal arguments, they were human. In the end, she was allowed to keep the children, but was warned that she'd be closely monitored. That was just one of countless times Elsa had to stand between the coldness of the system and the warmth of her heart. Financial problems also felt like a mountain that never shrank. Cake sales and house cleanings barely covered the basics. Many times, Elsa pretended not to be hungry just so there'd be one more piece of bread for someone else. She spent entire nights sewing donated clothes so the kids wouldn't be ridiculed at school. One day, her youngest daughter, Anna, came home crying. "Mom, the girls laughed at me because my backpack is old. They said it's trash bag material." Elsa's heart sank. She took the faded backpack and spent the night embroidering colorful flowers using fabric scraps she'd saved. The next day, she handed it to her daughter. "Now it's not old anymore. It's unique. And everything that's unique, my love, has value." Anna went to school with her head held high. That simple gesture spread among the other children. Soon, each of them wanted a special embroidery, a little detail to show that even without money, they carried something precious, the care of a brave mother. But not everything could be mended with thread and needle. Some pains were deep, invisible scars. One of the girls, Julia, had panic attacks at night. She'd wake up screaming, calling for a mother who would never return. Elsa would run to the room, sit beside her, and hold her hand. "It's okay, baby. I'm here. I won't leave you." Sometimes she stayed up for hours, rocking Julia like a baby until she calmed down. And the next day, even exhausted, Elsa would wake early, prepare breakfast, and smile, because she knew those children needed to see not just strength in her, but also hope. External prejudice was also cruel. Many neighbors would mutter, "That woman is crazy, taking in other people's kids. That's going to end badly. Mark my words. Whoever raises other people's children forgets their own." Elsa heard it all, but didn't answer. Her reply shone in the eyes of each child who arrived broken, and slowly began to smile again. One day, an angry neighbor confronted her in the street. "Dona Elsa, do you think this mess is nice? These kids aren't yours. That's their parents' problem, not yours?" Elsa replied calmly, "If everyone thought that way, who would be left to care? These kids didn't ask to be born. All they ask is not to be forgotten." The man shook his head, grumbled, but had no response. Because when faced with truth, no argument holds up. The heaviest burden, however, didn't come from neighbors or the system. It came from Elsa's own heart. Every time a child was reunited with their biological family or adopted by someone else, she smiled on the outside, but bled on the inside. She remembered a boy named Leo, who had stayed with her from age 2 to 7. A boy full of energy, who called her mom and made plans to be the man of the house when he grew up. One day, a kind family came forward to adopt him. The process moved quickly, and soon, Leo had his bags packed. At the goodbye, he hugged Elsa and asked, "Mom, are you going to forget me?" Her knees buckled, but she pulled herself together and said, "Never, son. You'll always live right here," and placed her hand over her heart. She cried in secret that night, letting no one see, because part of being a brave mother is also learning how to let go. On top of everything else, there was also her health. The physical toll began to catch up with her. At 45, Elsa had a hypertensive episode, and nearly fainted in the yard. The children panicked. One of the older boys ran to the neighbor, who rushed her to the health clinic. The doctor was blunt. "You need to take care of yourself. If you keep going like this, you're going to have a stroke." Elsa listened, but the answer was already in her heart. There was no time to stop. The children depended on her, and even sick, even tired, she kept going. One of the most painful moments came when she received a call from the police about a newborn found in the trash, wrapped in rags. Her heart nearly stopped. She ran to the hospital, saw the tiny baby fighting to live, and without hesitation, asked to bring him home when he was discharged. The nurses said, "Donna Elsa, you already have so many kids. Why take on another?" She answered, tears in her eyes, "Because he needs me." That baby, named Gabriel, became a symbol of Elsa's fight. Small, fragile, but a survivor. Every smile from him was a reminder that life is worth it, even when it starts in abandonment. And it was precisely after taking in Gabriel that something unexpected happened. One day, while walking with him in her arms, Elsa noticed a man standing at a distance, watching. He looked moved, as if that scene stirred something deep inside him. Elsa didn't know yet, but that man had his own story of abandonment. He had been a rejected boy, lucky enough to be adopted by a wealthy family. He carried an old wound and immense gratitude. Seeing Donna Elsa caring for Gabriel, a child no one wanted, something in him broke, and also healed. But that life-changing encounter was just beginning. Elsa's life was made of daily battles. Some won, others not. But in each of them, there was always a thread of faith, a breath of hope, a flame of courage that never went out. She had lost count of how many children had passed through her arms. Some returned, others were never heard from again, but all of them carried a piece of her. And despite the weight, the sleepless nights, the bills that never balanced, Elsa kept going, because deep down, she believed this was her mission. What she didn't know yet was that she was about to live the climax of her journey, a moment when her pain and struggle would finally be acknowledged in a way she could never have imagined. Years had passed, and Donna Elsa now wore the marks of a life full of battles on her face. Her graying hair had become like war medals, each white strand a witness to sleepless nights, endless worries, and at the same time, a testament to all the love she had poured out without measure. Her humble house, though worn down, still pulsed like a giant heart, beating in every child's laughter, in every scent of freshly baked cake she made to sell, in every corner turned into a crib, a bed, or a hiding place. But it was impossible to ignore. She was tired. Her body no longer responded with the same strength, and even her ever-present smile sometimes came with a long sigh. It was as if life was asking her to rest, but her heart refused to stop. It was on one of those mornings, under the scorching sun, as Elsa pushed a market cart filled with donated bread and fruit, that destiny chose to reveal itself in a surprising way. On the corner of the town square, she once again saw the man in the simple yet elegant suit standing there, watching from a distance. It wasn't the first time. He always stood at a distance, seemingly more interested in the children gathered around her like chicks around a mother hen than in Elsa herself. But this time, he approached. "Are you Donna Elsa?" he asked with a firm voice, but full of respect. She wiped the sweat from her forehead and answered cautiously, "Yes, that's me. Can I help you with something?" The man looked at the children around her, especially Gabriel, the once abandoned baby who now ran and played with the others, full of life. The man's eyes filled with tears before he could even hide it. I just wanted to thank you." Elsa frowned, confused. "Thank me? For what?" He took a deep breath, as if trying to lift a lifelong weight from his chest. "Because I was once like one of these children. I was abandoned as a baby, left in an orphanage. I was lucky enough to be adopted by a very wealthy family, who gave me education, comfort, and everything money could buy. But Do you know what money never erased? The memory of that emptiness. That feeling that, before everything else, I had been rejected. His words struck deep in Elsa, who stayed silent, just listening. When I saw you caring for these children, when I saw that boy, unwanted by anyone, safe in your arms, I saw myself in him, and I realized you're the kind of person who changes destinies. You do what money can't. You give real love. Elsa lowered her eyes, as humble as ever, and replied, I just follow my heart, sir. He smiled, still with tears. My name is Ricardo. I built companies, became a millionaire, but no achievement in my life ever moved me like watching you care for these children. I didn't come here just to say, thank you. I came because I want to help. Elsa's eyes widened. Help? That sounded almost like an illusion. How many times had she heard promises that never came true? How many times had politicians, businessmen, even religious leaders knocked on her door claiming they would do something, only to disappear? Help? You don't have to worry, sir. God always finds a way. Ricardo stepped forward and took her hands in his. Donna Elsa, this isn't an empty promise. I came to change your life, and theirs. I want to build a large, fully equipped house, with bedrooms, beds, toys, a library, a play area, a real home, a dignified place where you can continue your mission without having to worry about whether you'll have rice to cook tomorrow. The words hit Elsa like thunder in her heart. She was speechless. The children, curious, started asking who the man was and why he was crying. Elsa took a deep breath and asked, in almost a whisper, why would you do all this for me? And Ricardo replied, firmly, because someone once did it for me. I can't change my past, but I can change the future of many children through you. At that moment, Elsa couldn't hold back. The tears came, and she hugged him. It was a long embrace, full of gratitude, pain, hope, and love. The children, not fully understanding, gathered around them, forming a circle of innocence and joy that made even the passers-by in the square stop to watch. The following months felt like a dream. Trucks arrived with construction materials. Engineers and architects came to measure the land Ricardo had bought, especially for the project. Elsa watched every step, still in disbelief. It wasn't just a house. It was a true home, carefully designed with love in every detail. Spacious bedrooms, comfortable beds, a fully equipped kitchen, a study room with computers, a colorful playroom, and even a small garden where the children could grow flowers and vegetables, just like Elsa had always loved. The neighbors who once doubted her now looked on in admiration. Many apologized for the harsh words of the past. The whole town started talking. Local newspapers and TV programs came to hear the story of the simple woman who, through her heart, inspired such a grand gesture. But Elsa, shy as always, said the same thing every time. I'm not special. I'm just a brave mother who couldn't turn her back when she saw a child in need. The day of the new home's inauguration was one of the most memorable in everyone's lives. Ricardo insisted on cutting the ribbon alongside Elsa and the children. There was music, colorful balloons. The whole community gathered. But more than anything, there was a sense of hope, as if everyone was witnessing a miracle built from bricks and walls. When they entered for the first time, the children ran through the hallways, screaming, laughing, choosing beds, testing toys, throwing themselves onto soft couches. It felt like they had stepped into an enchanted castle, and Elsa, standing in the middle of the living room, couldn't believe it. She touched the walls, the doors, the windows, as if she needed to confirm that it was all real. Ricardo approached her and said softly, "Now you can rest a little. You don't have to carry this mission alone anymore." Elsa smiled, eyes misty, and replied, "I don't know if I can rest, but now I can breathe easier." That night, already settled into the new home, Elsa walked the halls in silence. She opened each bedroom door, saw the children sleeping peacefully, each in their own bed. There were no more mattresses on the floor, no more leaks in the roof, no fear the wall might collapse, only peace. She sat on the porch, looked up at the starry sky, and gave thanks, not just to Ricardo, but to God, to life, to every child who had passed through her arms. It had all been worth it. Every tear, every sleepless night, every humiliation, everything had led to that moment when her struggle was finally recognized and multiplied. But deep down, Elsa knew it was never about her. It was about the children, about every life transformed, every future rewritten. She had simply been the instrument, the bridge between pain and hope, and that was enough. As she watched the lights of the new home reflecting in the garden, Elsa smiled to herself, because she knew that despite everything, there was still much work ahead, and she was ready. She always would be, because when the heart is bigger than the body, there are no limits to a brave mother's love. And so, in the most unexpected way, the woman who began her journey alone, abandoned by her husband, raising 5 children in the midst of poverty, became a symbol of courage, resilience, and selfless giving. And she discovered that sometimes, life rewards the most generous hearts in ways they could never have imagined. If this story touched your heart, if you believe there are still brave mothers out there capable of changing the world through love, then I invite you to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. That way, more people will get to know inspiring stories like this one and feel the same emotion you felt just now. Share this video with someone special, because a mother's love deserves to be remembered and celebrated every single day.